Oscar had just come to New York. He was a young guy. He was born in Canada and came
Oh, I
down.
didn't know that. Wow.
He was Canadian, but he moved to came down to New York to live. And when he was, I guess, a teenager. Anyway, he already was phenomenal. Chops, incredible piano technique, and there was a kind of a jam session going on, and piano players were taking turn playing solo piano for each other.
Oh,
And Oscar, uh, at one point, did his number, and he just tore it up. The people were screaming, and he couldn't believe it. Then Art Tatum followed him, and Art came up. You won't know this title of this song because it's from way back. But Art came up after Oscar had blown the roof off and sat at the piano and played "Little Man, You've Had a Busy Day."
okay.
It's a great old tune.
Yeah. He didn't say anything. He just played "Little Man, You've Had a Busy Day."
That's funny.
Isn't that a great story?
Yeah, that's great. It's totally what I would think that he would have been like.
Oh yeah, he was.
There was one more story.
Please lay him on me.
Ray Brown told me on the bus in Europe about when he and Hank Jones were sharing a room at the 92nd Street Y in New York as really young guys, and they went to hear Art Tatum in just a down and dirty club that he didn't remember what it was, and there was an upright piano, and part of the keys were stuck down because it just was a mess.
Mhm.
And they saw, and Ray and Hank were sitting in the front row to hear Art play it, and Art sat down and felt all the keys all the way up and down the piano for about 30 seconds to a minute, and memorized in his mind what was playable, and played unbelievably well. I mean, just tore it up and never hit any of the notes that were stuck down.
Wow.
And Ray, well, Hank especially, but Hank Jones especially, but Ray said they were so stunned they couldn't speak, they couldn't get up they were just awestruck.
That's a great story.
That's cool.
And, Ray had so many of them, but, another tip of the hat to Art Tatum, just amazing. I mean, almost not, like Bill Cunliffe said, it's almost not possible what he did.
Right.
Art was blind, of course.
Right.
He apparently had a little bit of vision in one eye, just a little bit. And, I remember one of the other musicians of his era telling me that he could play cards if there was a card game going on. He could play cards, and he could hold the cards up to his. One of his eyes was better than the other, and he could hold a card up and read it enough to play cards with the guys. So he wasn't completely blind, but he was.
For all intents and purposes, probably.
Yeah, I get what you're saying though, but he could interact and he could almost travel in between both worlds in that sense of like.
It's amazing when you hear his playing, you realize this is a man who can't see.
Yeah, I mean, he's just so intertwined in that audio.
I'm glad to know that you're an Art Tatum fan. I'm kind of surprised that I don't think most guys of your age group.
Oh, really?
That much about him.
Oh man, I went down an Art Tatum rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I mean that stuff's and you know what's incredible is, I mean I say this about all of the videos I find, especially in the jazz era. I mean you can find these recordings on YouTube and stuff, and I don't know who's taking these recordings and who's doing the video, but it's incredible. Like you see them playing, and it's like, some of them are at like these. I think one of them's like I think it's like a legit concert and there's like cameras and, so it's like they knew what they were doing. But some of these recordings that you hear on just audio wise, it's like you can tell they're in just some club and it's just in the back, or I don't know who the guy is that's there recording all this stuff. But some of the technology wise, the timing was just, thank God the timing was perfect. Because I mean, all that stuff would have been lost to just history. You wouldn't have heard any of it.
Those guys, there are guys that can take stuff off 78 records.
Wow. Yeah. I
The
mean,
tech,
even yeah, just the timing. It always trips me out. I think I was talking about this on with someone. It may have been on one of the earlier podcasts, but I remember it's crazy how the timing of like the technology and I guess the jazz era. I mean, it kind of encompasses all of that stuff, but it's incredible because I mean some of that stuff. I mean, it was happening just as jazz was, and the discoveries of like audio technology. It's crazy. And I'm so glad it happened like that.
and it's so to your credit that you've listened to all these guys because it will come out in your playing. I mean, you learn by osmosis. I've seen this with students so many times.
hmm
Who you listen to does come out. Um, and one of the things that Mike and I both noticed, because we taught UCSD jazz camp for I think it was about 15 years,
Something
just
like that,
ended a
yeah.
couple years ago.
Oh, they stopped it.
Yeah,
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Dan Atkinson was, of
Oh,
course,
of course.
creating it. And we taught every summer, and the young pianists were not listening to any of these people. They were listening to Brad Meldau. I mean,
Of
who's great.
course, yeah.
And if they went back at all in time, they only went back to the McCoy years,
Right.
where they kept wanting to sound like that.
Mhm.
So
And who doesn't?